Welcome to the Cedar Falls Committee of the Whole meeting this June 3rd, 2019. I'll now call this meeting to order. We have 4 items on the agenda for this evening: is Utility Board of Trustees interview, Gross Cedar Valley update, monument mailboxes, and bills and payroll. So starting off with number 1, I'll ask Ms. Deborah Eel to come to the microphone. She's the candidate for Board of Trustees for Cedar Falls Utilities. The admin interview took place March 19th for council members that weren't a part of that. So that went obviously very well. So welcome. I just ask you to give a brief introduction and we'll open up to council questions. Wish that microphone's right there too for me. Thank you.
Hello everyone. As you said, my name's Deb Eel. I've been in the community since I graduated from college, which is a little while ago. My husband and I opened Agape Therapy in 1986, and we have 6 children and 5 grandchildren. Not sure there's anything else you care about knowing.
Sounds real good. Thanks, Deb. I'll open it up for council questions or comments. Mr. Blanford.
Ms. Eel, thank you for volunteering to serve. We appreciate that. I know we talked a couple of months ago. I appreciate all the information you shared. Could you just share why you wanted to be a Board of Trustees member for the utilities with the group?
Mayor Brown made a call to me, and in contemplating that, I've received a lot of benefit from being in this community, and my life stage is kind of giving me the opportunity to try to give back a little bit to the community, and that's what I want to do.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone further? Mr. Green?
Just curious if you have a particular interest with the Board of Trustees and initiatives that you'd like to see move forward?
I'm probably in the middle of the row as far as I'm not fanatical either green or brown. I want to see a good, responsible utilities company run, fiscally responsible, but yet also, to me, Cedar Falls utilities always seems cutting edge, and I would like to see what we can do to maintain that position. I don't really want to sit on a boring board. I want to have something happen and try to be on the front edge of that change mechanism. Not that anything's wrong right now, but I think it's really important we stay at the cutting edge of those technological things.
Anything further from council? Mr. Burr?
I too was on the original interview back in March with you, Deb, and asked quite a few questions back then. I just wanted to thank you for your willingness to serve, and thank you for all that you do for the community.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for your time.
Opportunity to serve.
Happy birthday, Mayor Brown.
Thank you, Deb. Appreciate it. Moving on to the next item is Gross Cedar Valley update. I believe we have Board President Eric Johnson starting off and giving us an update with the Gross Cedar Valley. Welcome.
Thanks for the promotion. I'm just the chairman of the board.
Oh, sorry. I tried, Carrie.
For 30 more days, and, then you will not see me gracing this council on this update. So just like to thank you, Mayor and council members, for allowing us to be here and share with you what's going on. Certainly, we're glad to be a partner with the City of Cedar Falls. It's easier to be a partner with somebody that's put in the groundwork to make economic development easy. And this council, previous councils, this mayor, previous mayors, you've done a good job of creating that infrastructure that makes economic development easy. And that's a physical infrastructure with things like land being available and utilities. And it's also the people that you have in place, and then a low tax base that makes it attractive for people to relocate here. So it's easy to be a partner when you put that infrastructure in place, and so that makes our job easier. I'm a volunteer. I do what I can to help grow Cedar Valley and try to bolster economic development here, but the staff, the paid staff, is going to give you an update on those specific items. As I said, our goal really is just to be a partner with you. You've got great people on staff, and to fill in some of those gaps and work on the edges of some of those things that we need to do to help make our community better. So thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Brown and members of the City Council, and just like everyone else tonight, Mayor Brown, hope you've had a great day so far and you're able to have enough time this evening to celebrate with your family tonight. Again, congratulations on another year. We appreciate we appreciate the city's collaboration with us and external and existing business project. And just to really echo what Eric has said so well, you give us the infrastructure that we need to help sell Cedar Falls, and you make economic development easy for us. And trust me, having done it in other communities and in other states, it's appreciated because we're only successful as our partnership with you. So thank you over these last 2 decades I've been here. It's because of you that we all are successful. A high tide rises all boats. To that end, 5 years ago, we welcomed Zyberg Frontline Systems, based in the Netherlands, to the United States and to Cedar Falls. Most international companies come into the United States with what is described as a soft landing with their businesses. Once international companies establish success, they grow their U.S. footprint from there. Zyberg recently did just that with planned construction that will triple the amount of square footage in Cedar Falls Industrial Park next year. Furniture Mart USA and Ashley Furniture continue to invest in Cedar Falls, and the planned repurposing and expansion of the former Yonkers building at the mall will raise the bar for the next generation of retail stores along University Avenue. These are only a handful of developments that you and the staff should be proud of this past fiscal year, and we are proud partners where we can to support the city's growth and redevelopment, and for that we thank you for your partnership. The update that you received electronically states there are 24 active opportunities as of last month, 7 of those new opportunities since our last update in December. We expanded our Midwest prospecting initiative. We started in October, and I mentioned to you in December. We weren't getting the leads in the Midwest that we had hoped, so we have targeted the continental U.S., and we're starting to generate additional leads for that. The targeted industries identified for this initiative include durable goods, non-durable goods, which would be food processing or related, professional services, and logistics. And those are based on a company's growth over time as a measurement for possible expansion that these companies have. Goal is to generate 8 external leads. So far, almost 1,500 companies have been identified to date that meet that criteria for growth. 4,800 calls have been attempted. And to give you a better landscape of the competitiveness, when we talk about generating new leads and encouraging companies from outside to expand inward, we only have had 1 conference call to date with a lead. 1 is currently being rescheduled due to a time conflict, and 3 were disqualified. 1 we disqualified because the company wanted to be bought out of their location in another city, and they're also in another state, and we just don't have the resources for that. And 1 lead wanted to locate in an opportunity zone, which we didn't have, and then the 3rd wanted to focus on Wisconsin to be closer to their customer. Since the report that you have in front of you, we do have a upcoming conference call scheduled with a new lead. That's as of last week. Some of the external lead generation comes from establishing and maintaining relationships with site selection consultants. Through regional partnership that we have, we're able to reach and tell the Cedar Falls and Cedar Valley story to 21 consultants in Dallas and in Chicago. We also stay in contact with these same consultants through newsletters to keep them informed on the changes in our business climate and available property. An upcoming property we will be highlighting and sending out a newsletter yet this week is a 10,000 square foot office space that is currently in Prairie Technology Park that will be available in the beginning of 2020, for example. Next week, I will be attending the Select USA Investment Summit, which is the highest profile event dedicated to promoting foreign direct investment, FDI, in the United States. We'll be exhibiting with the Iowa Department of Economic Development and hosting a reception at the same booth one of those evenings. We will also, separately from IEDA, be participating in network breakfast with site selection consultants with our partner Transatlantic Business and Investment Council. They also will be arranging for me pre-scheduled meetings with international companies seeking to expand in the U.S. Shane Graham will be joining me this year for the first time. As I said, through our relationship with Transatlantic Business Council, he will be able to attend a invitation-only breakfast network event with international site selectors a week from today, and an evening reception with a group of Austrian delegation as well, while in Washington, D.C. In addition to attending the network reception at the State of Iowa Trade Show booth, where Debbie Durham also participates in, and last year we had former Governor Branstad attend with his Chinese delegation and stop by to talk about opportunities of development in the state of Iowa. Since our last update, we had an external prospect opportunity visit as well. Shane joined us with that visit and tour of some existing space, and talks continue with that project. Since our last update, we've met with 4 Cedar Falls businesses to discuss expansion or project advocacy and available access space they may have, and responded to 5 responses for additional assistance by existing businesses in Cedar Falls. We also are continuing to collaborate with the Institute for Decision Making, IDM, on program matching grant they received last fall from the U.S. Economic Development Administration to establish a business retention expansion innovation network. And we will probably in the next couple of months be bringing Shane into that fold as well and contributing to that conversation with IDM as we continue to expand it. So having said that, again, you have the material with you. If you have any questions at the end, I'd be glad to answer any. But I will turn the microphone over to Will Frost, who will give you an update on the talent initiatives he's taken over since he joined our team earlier this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it.
Lift us up a little bit higher. I want to thank you all as well, and happy birthday. I didn't know.
Today,
Happy
all
to know
day.
that. I'm Will Frost, and I'm the Director of Talent Development at Grow Cedar Valley. Grow Cedar Valley is really helping lead the charge by grabbing the topic of talent and workforce development by the horns and really kind of addressing it head on. I would like to say in a very practical way. We must first look at our unemployment rate. The city of Cedar Falls unemployment rate is 1.5%. Iowa's is 2.4%. Those sources are from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. This means that we must be creative and we must be intentional in our workforce development efforts. With the support of the city of Cedar Falls, we continue to pursue a workforce solutions to the needs of our business community. We are currently doing this in a few different ways. First, our economic inclusion partnership. An unemployment rate as low as ours means that we have to engage everyone. And when we say everyone, we mean everyone, every employee, every employer, entrepreneur, customer, all have to be able to have access to the economy and be able to participate if they choose. Our economic inclusion partnership ensures that businesses have the best practices for inclusiveness so that they can strengthen and diversify their workforce. Additionally, plans are well underway for our annual Economic Inclusion Conference. This year's conference, which is October 11th, is being held at the Diamond Event Center here in Cedar Falls. Last year's conference drew over 370 participants. The city of Cedar Falls participated by being a financial sponsor and also continues to participate by staff being on the committee. Really, I want to thank you all very, very much for your continued support of an inclusive Cedar Valley. We also provide workforce development in the form of intentional outreach. Intentionality is really the word of the season for me right now, so you might hear me say it a few more times. One such outreach is our Summer Social Series. This series promotes the livability of the Cedar Valley to students interning and working part-time over the summer. These events are part fun, part educational, and are located throughout the area, including Cedar Falls. Another intentional outreach initiative is our expat outreach. Grow Cedar Valley partners with the Iowa Project to host meetup events. Early last month, we participated in a meetup in the Twin Cities where we were able to present employment opportunities to expats of the Cedar Valley. We had a fantastic turnout, and we're able to talk about the great technology, careers, opportunities that are available here in the Cedar Valley, as well as our quality of life. Our next meetup will be in Denver this fall. The date is to be determined. But really, these types of efforts help grow our labor force so that we have enough available talent to meet the needs of our growing economy. We're also collaborating and partnering on many other great initiatives. This includes active community engagement such as career fairs. Grow Cedar Valley attends these events to speak with candidates about employment opportunities in Cedar Falls and in Cedar Valley. We can also help connect potential candidates with employers. One such example would be our involvement after Ocwen's announcement of its termination of its operation in the Cedar Valley. Grow Cedar Valley was part of the Ocwen Rapid Response Team. We partnered with Iowa Works to provide rapid job and employment support for more than 125 people that were affected by this. We were also able to put together a vetted list of employers looking now for people with their skill sets. We continue to provide support for these displaced employees. Grow Cedar Valley is also a core piece of the Cedar Valley Urban Alliance Initiative. Urban Alliance is an organization located in Kalamazoo, Michigan. They presented at the Future Ready Iowa Summit last year about their highly effective way of addressing the disparities, gaps, as well as their workforce barriers. The Cedar Valley Urban Alliance group is a partnership between Iowa Works, UNI, Future Ready Iowa, Hawkeye, the Urban Alliance in Kalamazoo, among many other organizations that are involved, as well as the cities. This platform is comprised of two principal pieces, the momentum side and the urban outreach. The momentum addresses workforce development opportunities in urban neighborhoods, provide life skills, essential skills, and employment readiness skills. The urban outreach that's the boots on the ground effort designed to build relationships and communicate value, build credibility and trust in the communities, and assess needs. These are grassroots efforts. Grow Cedar Valley also partners with the Black Hawk County Child Care Coalition to address areas of the child care needs. In partnership with this coalition and the city of Cedar Falls, we were able to survey over 300 people working in the Cedar Falls Industrial Park. This survey helps substantiate the city's efforts to ensure a robust economy with investments to alleviate this barrier. I'll wrap this up with you guys. I just want to thank you all very much for your support and helping grow Cedar Valley, help grow the Cedar Valley. I hope you all have a very good evening, and happy birthday again, and thank you.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you.
I'll
Appreciate
pass it over to Carrie.
Thank you. Okay, I'm not going to wish you a happy birthday because everybody else did, but I was planning to. So thank you again, and I will wrap this up. You've heard from our experts, and as you know through our branding efforts and our research, our two top priorities are business retention and expansion and our talent and workforce. And you heard from our professionals that are working on those areas, those priorities that have been identified. I do want to mention, though, that we did receive the report from the state of Iowa that was done for our region, the labor shed area, and it's a study in labor availability and workforce characteristics through several sectors. And I just want to mention that there are many portions of our community who have yet to contribute to the economy, and there are all kinds of folks that we know that we can reach to help them find a path to their careers or to contribute. And in fact, Frank, there's some for retired people. There's a whole group of people that could contribute by coming back to work. So not only Frank, there's several of you that I think we could put back to work. But given that, I will wrap it up. I do want to thank Eric Johnson, our board chair. He has dedicated countless hours to overseeing our board and the transition through our branding process. And next time we present to you, you'll see our incoming board chair, Brian Ernest from Amperage, and our vice chair will be Chris Faraday with PDCM. So thank you again. We know that the city of Cedar Falls and all cities make great decisions. You certainly make good decisions. You make hard decisions, and our role is to support you in those decisions. So we really applaud the efforts and the courage that you show a lot of the time, and we are proud to be a partner. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yep.
We have a few minutes if council has anything, pressing or anything in terms of questions for either of the speakers. Very thorough. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item is monument mailboxes. I believe Stephanie is up for this topic.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and council members. This item was referred a couple meetings ago, probably about 2 months ago. The council referred this for discussion at a committee meeting and wanted to specifically talk about what was adopted back in June of 2008, restricting new monument mailboxes. So that's what I'm here tonight to go over. Let's make sure this is working for me. So just, again, what are we talking about when we say monument mailboxes, just to make sure that we're clear about that. The monument style, I just have a couple different images of what might be considered monuments. They're on the left side of the screen, and more the standard style, more maybe a little bit more simple, although you can definitely get decorative options when it comes to mailboxes. And so we probably see all kinds of different options that people opt to use. There is a installation standard that the United States Postal Service has. There are the dimensions there about how a mailbox needs to be installed, and it is the resident's responsibility to have that mailbox available if they're in an area where this is the approach. I mean, we have several different approaches throughout Cedar Falls about how mail delivery occurs. We have some where they're walking up to the home and there are no mailboxes. Then we have, in other areas, we have the mailbox style approach. And then other images are we have these cluster type of mailboxes that have been the requirement for probably, my impression is maybe around 7 or 8 years. This is what we've been implementing, but maybe longer than that in the newer subdivisions where there's one designated spot where everybody needs to pick up their mail. And then I thought I'd also mention, since I was in front of the council tonight, is that we have had some preliminary discussions with the United States Postal Service, with our postmaster here in Cedar Falls, who's in the audience tonight if you want to talk with him, about doing a little bit more combination approach and doing something around like 4 mailboxes in one, maybe having one-sided delivery. So kind of similar to some things that we've talked about in terms of one-sided pickup with refuse and that type of thing being cost savings. The post office is talking about the same types of approaches and some changes that they might be making in mail delivery. So what are our concerns with monument-style mailboxes? I'm going to go over the 6 that I've listed here and talk a little bit about what's involved with each one of those. The first one is safety in the right-of-way. The area between the curb and the back of the sidewalk, more or less, is typically right-of-way. It's typically somewhere around 10 to 15 feet wide, and that is designated as a clear zone for a variety of reasons. We want to minimize obstructions there that could create safety issues for motorists, for example. So any signs that we have in this area are now breakaway. There's a lot of effort that's been taken in order to do more breakaway style type of things, so that it doesn't, what that means is it's avoiding something becoming a projectile, or avoiding that that it won't move, and so there's further damage to the vehicle, to the occupant of the vehicle. Same thing with a sign becoming a projectile, for example, is whether that might go through the windshield, that type of thing. So that's what I'm talking about when I say safety and breakaway. A monument style mailbox mailbox would not be able to achieve this. I don't know that I'm misstating when I say that. Is that, you know, this is something that's around 9 to 12 inches square, fairly substantial, maybe even has a foundation where, you know, the more standard post style is going to be able to fall over and really not do too much damage to somebody that might inadvertently hit it. Maintenance. Fixing a single post can be a lot more straightforward than fixing something like the image that I have here of a mailbox that has started to lean. That's going to be a little bit more involved, and because of that, could be something that does not rise to the priority list to maintain, and continues to be something that maybe gets worse or continues to be a potential obstruction in the roadway. So. Whereas the just the standard type of mailbox is a little bit more straightforward that way. A monument mailbox may have lighting involved with it too, and so then there's electrical work and those types of things that just become things that make it just even more difficult to do that maintenance if it's needed. In terms of conflicts with utilities, that area of right-of-way, the 10 to 15 feet that I talked about behind the curb, is an area where we use to put a lot of underground utilities. So immediately right next to a curb, we typically are installing subdrain, which is something that can help with drainage in the area. It is something that you can tie your sump pumps into and that type of thing, and a foundation would obstruct that flow. A monument mailbox might have an impact on the ability to do subdrains in the area. We also, in these areas of right-of-way, see electric, water, and gas installed. So there are quite a bit of utilities that we're trying to fit in to this area. In terms of plowing, this area is essential for winter safety. It's an area where they're able to store snow. It's also, we want to avoid some leaning into the right-of-way or things that are right next to, into the street, I should say, or things right next to it, because it just becomes an area where snow piles or it's harder to clear the snow around it. And so in talking with Public Works, they talk about oftentimes it might be it's a lot more difficult to get close to the edge of the curb when there's a monument mailbox there, because they're worried about hitting something, any potential damage that way, and wanting to avoid that. And so then it leaves a little bit more there that the homeowner needs to clear, maybe complaints about not getting the road quite clear, those types of things that can come up related to snow removal. If we do damage a mailbox, our typical reimbursement for damage to a mailbox is $75 a mailbox. That would not go very far in trying to repair a monument mailbox, because typically those are ranging around $2,000, and that's just an average that we got from somebody who's got experience with this type of work. And then the last thing, additional costs to taxpayers for road construction projects. The expense to remove and then replace mailboxes, like I said, on average, they're about $2,000. I know that there's going to be a lot of range based on the complexity and what's involved with that as to what that cost might be. But if, for example, we took, as just a quick example, the quarter mile that we're doing along Cedar Heights, let's say all 37 properties in that stretch that we're redoing were to have monument mailboxes, then that would be an estimate of about almost $75,000 worth of monument mailboxes if those were to be in place. That would be something that potentially we'd have to remove and replace. If we kept them in place and tried to do the road project, it would be difficult. The paving machine would not be able to be set up. We'd have interruptions. We'd have to do a lot of handwork. We've priced that out on other projects, and it increases the work by about 30%, the cost of the work by about 30%. So that's one reason that we feel it's important to discuss some of the unintended consequences or other expenses that we can have related to this type of thing in the right-of-way. And then I guess the last thing I had was just added in complementary improvements, showing this other picture about how, well, sometimes, this doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes when you have one improvement now, you want to expand it a little bit more and maybe put some more landscaping next to it or do a little bit more paving area. And again, we start to then see more and more improvements in the right-of-way area that we're trying to reserve for safety reasons, for underground utilities, for snow storage, that type of thing. And it erodes the benefits that we see by having that reserved as public right-of-way. So with that, the recommendation is to continue with the current ordinance the way it's written that prohibits monument mailboxes and similar obstructions in the right-of-way. I did consult with Cedar Falls Utilities to ask about any input or thoughts that they might have. They said that generally monument mailboxes have not been an issue, but they felt that it was likely because we prohibit them. And they would encourage that to continue, as they would like to see as few items in the right-of-way as possible as well. Also, the Postal Service, like I mentioned, is moving to doing more cluster type of mailboxes, and so having monument mailboxes would make it harder to achieve that. So with that, I can answer any questions or anything for other staff as well.
Thank you, Stephanie. Mr. Blanford?
I have a couple of questions. Sorry, a couple of questions if you don't mind. First of all, you talked about the cost of replacement, but I'm curious, would there be an option to basically say our fee is $75, that's our flat reimbursement rate, if a property owner chooses to go above and beyond basically what that $75 covers, that's their personal choice, but basically saying our reimbursement rate is fixed. The reason I asked that is I'm just wondering about, you mentioned that the current ordinance prohibits them universally, so how does that impact people who already have them? You mentioned the issue sometimes with ongoing maintenance, but I'm wondering if we prohibit them and someone has one, does that perpetuate a maintenance problem by saying, well, we don't want you to have it, so I'm just going to leave it there and let it fall down on its own sort of thing?
So on the first point, thanks for clarifying. That is our approach, that no matter what the type of mailbox, it's a $75 reimbursement for any damage. So if somebody chooses to do something that's more expensive than the standard, it's at their risk because they're placing it in the right-of-way.
So when we say the added cost, we really don't have the added cost.
Not for addressing damage. I meant added cost more in the reconstruction type of project of redoing the road.
Could that principle be carried over to that then? To say we have a flat, here's our mailbox reimbursement cost, whether it's construction or damage?
I mean, I think that that's something that council could consider, but I think the other strong consideration there is how it increases our costs for doing the paving work by having it there.
Okay. And I'm sorry, how does it affect people that already have one? So if they have one now and they want to repair it, we're saying, nope, you got to tear it out.
I think it probably, I don't have direct experience on that, but I think it probably depends on the scope of the issue. You know, if it's a minor repair, it's probably just continuing forward to stay. But if it's really leaning over and they're going to have to remove it in order to do repair, well, then once it comes out, it's kind of like anything else, then you have to meet the standard that we have in place.
Okay. You also mentioned the conflict with the utilities and that presents an issue, but it seems to me we had the same objection about trees in the right-of-way, but we move forward with that. That we feel that doesn't present enough of a conflict or it can be mitigated with the Iowa 1 call. But you don't think that would apply to this?
I think trees in the right-of-way definitely do impact utilities. You know, you see CFU trimming trees and that type of thing. It also, the roots can get into water lines and sewer lines, so yes, they have an impact. I guess there's also a lot of information about the public benefit that trees have for speed reduction for one, for shade and energy efficiencies as well, so that are a community benefit versus the individual benefit that a monument mailbox has.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything further, Mr. Green?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just curious what we're looking at for mailbox strikes for public safety. Is that a common issue or very rare that happens?
Do we have any information?
There are, this year is probably a pretty good example, Mr. Green. We do, when we plow snow, hit mailboxes. Some of those have gone to risk management. when they've contested the amount of money that the city will reimburse them, again, up to $75. There have been some instances where we have hit monument mailboxes, structures, and at this point, if I remember correctly, again, even if we damaged a brick or that sort of impact, we were only going to give them $75. It does cause a little bit of problem when they believe that the city has damaged their property, but again, these are in the public right-of-way, and we do need the areas to be able to plow snow and push snow back, and that's the purpose of the right-of-way.
And the follow-up would be for private vehicles crashing into mailboxes, whether they're monuments or straight. Is that something that's we need to be concerned about with this change?
Well, when a private vehicle would run into or damage a mailbox, that would be between the property owner and most likely the insurance company of the vehicle, and they would probably be reimbursed 100%. So I don't, that wouldn't affect the city, if I understand your question.
Anything further from council? Yes, Mr. Go ahead.
Stephanie, is there a permit for a mailbox, land use permit or anything that guides the installation?
I was looking at Chase as to whether there's a right-of-way permit.
There should be, yes. Excavation permit by the homeowner. Anytime you dig within the right-of-way, there should be an excavation permit.
Sure.
But that's depending on if the homeowner calls it in or comes in to get one.
Sure. And I would assume, so the only thing that guides it at this point is Postal Service recommendations on dimensions and such. So you get into doing something like this with these more extravagant ones, 2-foot depth they're digging or something along those lines to get a footing, and most of those utilities should be well below that, I would assume, at a 4-foot depth.
18-inch requirement on utilities, but we still have storm sewer and stuff that is fairly shallow in areas, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Cruz, did you have a comment?
Yes. We mentioned trees that are in the right-of-way. As they get bigger and bigger, they become less and less breakaway, particularly the very large ones. So I wonder, we promote tree plantings in the right-of-way as we take out diseased trees and so on. So looking at a monument compared to a tree, I would think these do break away when you hit them. They're brick, and they would come apart as opposed to hitting a large oak tree. So I guess
Very good. Anything further from council? Yes, Frank?
You said there was an individual here from the Postal Service. Is there a long-range plan to implement more of these neighborhood, multiple mailboxes? If the city's moving towards that, it would be good to know that for this discussion as well. Do you have a plan?
All new development. I'm Mike DeWall here, I'm the postmaster here in Cedar Falls. All new development, we have a district office actually that handles all that stuff. We send down the requirements, the type of neighborhood it is, where it's located, what the current delivery around it is at, and whether it's a completely new addition or if it's in an existing addition. We send all that information down with some local knowledge, and then they make the decision whether it's going to be with the cluster boxes or the CBUs, like we've shown up there. Otherwise, they can also approve curbside delivery for most of it. We do have some stuff that's actually growing inside the city limits that is actually still city delivery, which is house to house. But most of our deliveries are going to those CBUs, which is centralized, mainly because of the security. They're all locked boxes. They're centrally located, and plus with the package deliveries we have, there are also partial lockers involved in there, so therefore they're also more secure that way. As far as the curbside delivery, the post office stance on it is the breakaway post. We like those a lot better, mainly for the safety and security of our carriers out there, especially during the winter. It's really easy to slide in and get hung up on something. As you've seen with the monument boxes out there, a lot of them are square. There's not a lot of room underneath them, and you slide right into the side of those, causing damage to our vehicles and to those monument boxes out there.
Okay.
Stay up there while you're there.
Oh, sure.
I've been to developments that
put the mailboxes in one area when it's a large development, put a canopy over it, and it benefits the post office because it's easier to deliver mail. It also benefits those communities. They get to meet their neighbors. So there are a lot of different ways of handling it rather than putting a mailbox in front of each house.
Right. and
Or
that's-
having it on one side of the street.
Yep. And I know, as we have talked before, trying to go to 4 mailboxes on one post, there's a lot of benefits to the customers, and I think if we explain that to the residents, they might be a little more open to it. It frees up a lot of parking space, because you can't park in front of a mailbox. If you do, if it's in front of your mailbox, you don't get it, and if it's in front of your neighbor's mailbox, they don't get it, and the neighbors don't like that too much.
Yep.
The other main one is, as a lot of you noticed here this last winter, we had quite a bit of snow. When you put 4 mailboxes together, now you're required to move roughly 35 to 40 feet worth of snow on that right-of-way. When they're on 4 different locations, now everybody has to move 30 feet of their own snow. So it does make a lot of difference there when it comes to that. So.
Thank you, Mike. Anything further from council? There is, can we bring the motion back up, Danny? I want to go back to the screen up. Continue the current ordinance prohibits monument mailboxes and similar obstructions that create safety concerns in the public right-of-way. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Do we need a motion to keep it the way it is?
Well, that's what I was wondering too, for staff. It's, I suppose if you need to make a motion, it'd be to change it or to take it further to a referral.
No action is necessary for status quo. So if the council takes no action, that signifies that
We're good.
We're good.
Leaving it alone. I'll leave it open to the floor as far as council's concerned.
Is there opportunity for people in the,
There will be if there's a motion in a second, yep, and I'm happy to entertain that thereafter too. Since there is no action, but I know it was prompted by a referral from a citizen, I'll allow comments up here for a couple minutes if you'd so like to do so. Just state your name and address for me, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm Hans Isaacson. I live at 3110 Pendleton Drive. I'm a professor emeritus in the Department of Economics at the University of Northern Iowa. And I guess I'm the instigator who brought this up because I have an issue with my mailbox. It's in need of replacement and or significant repair. And in my neighborhood, nearly everybody has what's called a monument type mailbox, and which is exactly the kind of mailbox that I wanted to replace the one that I now have with. And I was rather surprised when I began calling masons around town that they would not build one because they were prohibited by the city. Frankly, at first I found that hard to believe, that the city would prohibit monument mailboxes. But lo and behold, it turned out to be the case. When I investigated further, I discovered that there is no other municipality that I could find anywhere in the area, for that matter, anywhere in the state of Iowa, that prohibits monument mailboxes, that has an ordinance similar to the ordinance here in Cedar Falls. In surrounding communities, they do limit the amount of liability that the municipality has in the event that a mailbox of any type, monument or regular, might be damaged by the city or by actions of city employees or agents of the city, whether it be snow plowing or rebuilding streets, utility work, or what have you. And the amounts of that limitation varies from municipality to municipality. But I could not find another municipality with an ordinance quite as restrictive as the one here in Cedar Falls. Frankly, what I would recommend is that the ordinance be changed here in Cedar Falls, and that monument mailboxes be permitted, subject to limiting the liability of the city, with the understanding that, of course, residents have full responsibility of bearing any cost and maintenance associated with the monument mailbox, just as they would any other mailbox that they might have in the right-of-way, or for that matter, a tree or any other flower bed or whatever they might have in the right-of-way. I do think that monument mailboxes should be permitted. I don't think they should be built without permit by the city. And if the city so chooses, they may very well wish to regulate monument mailboxes in some way. For example, require that they be in accordance with the postal regulations, that they be so many inches from the curb and at such and such a height from the ground, and being no more than so many inches deep or what have you. But I believe that prohibiting monument mailboxes completely is overkill and unnecessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Isaacson. Appreciate it. Anybody else?
I don't know if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Open it back up to council.
Mr. Mayor, my concern is that I understand not allowing new ones based on the reasons the director sheet said, but my concern is, are we self-creating a maintenance complaint issue by not allowing people to repair the one that they have now? So I guess my question would be, could we put in a provision to allow repair or replacement of existing structures and not permit new structures? Would be my request.
So would like to move, we can do that.
If there's a second to it.
Been motion and a second. Yep, sorry, Mr. Cruz, motion and second. Anyone else further in conversation? Mr. Brewer?
Well, I recall when this was passed back in 2008, and there was quite a bit of discussion from our city engineer regarding the additional cost during repair of curb and gutter or road repair. It happened to take these down. Apparently, you can't just take them down, set them aside, and put them back up. But a lot of times they have to be completely rebuilt. And
Yeah,
then it's quite
generally,
expensive.
generally that's the case with a standard mailbox. We'll remove them, put in temporary mailboxes, and then put them back when we're done. If they're a monument mailbox and they're in conflict with construction, they'll be completely removed and not replaced. They'll be replaced with a standardized mailbox. We do try to work around them the best we can. Like Stephanie mentioned, they create paving issues, just as you spoke about trees or street lights. Everything's based on a clear zone requirement, which is 4 or 5 feet, depending on the speed of the road, and also paving equipment. You need that 4 feet to get the paver through there, and if you can't, you have to stop the pave, jump past the mailbox, start the pave, and then you have to hand pour all that, which is a significant cost as well, instead of paving straight through it.
And this added cost is all paid with our citizens' tax dollars.
Chase, how does that work with a tree that's there currently?
Most of the trees, I've worked with Mark on some tree planting projects. Generally, we try to keep them the 4 to 5 feet away from the curb so we can get our equipment in there. You know, the older trees encroach in that distance, and we try to salvage everything we can, but there's been conflicts where we've had to remove them.
Anything further from council? It's been motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay?
Nay.
I'm sorry, how many nays? 1, 2, 3, 4. That does not pass. Thank you. It'll stay the same. Moving on to the next item, is there a motion to allow bills and payroll?
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. This concludes this evening's Committee of the Whole meeting, and the regular City Council will begin at the top of the hour. Thank you.